up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Flippin' Bats presented by Perry Ellis Fragrances. It is officially World Series time. Alex and I have made it to Houston. We are live on the field for a full World Series preview, everything you need to know, and at the end, our World Series prediction. This one's going to be a blast. Let's get to it.
And the Houston Astros are going back to the World Series. Philadelphia Phillies are going to the World Series.
We are down here on the field at Maid Park in less than 24 hours. Game one of the World Series gets underway. And Alex, we've made it.
I just gotta say, I keep looking around at all the World Series signage, and I think it's just starting to kick in for me that we're here, and this is my first time covering a World Series. I know you've had your fair share with your brother as well, but this is pretty magical. This is what it's all about. This is what you play the game for. This is what you fight the entire season for to get to this moment, and we're here.
I think it's cool to see the attention to detail that goes into everything at the World Series. We've been here for a large part of the day now, just doing different things. I was shooting some TikToks to send out, and they are updating and everything down to a T. They're just practicing the T-shirt toss. They were practicing the flag reveal in a little while. The anthem was practiced. The player introductions out of the dugout with the cameraman following. Nobody was practiced, and that it just gives the feel of this is big. This is big.
This is big, and you know another reason this is so big is the two teams that are here. You have the 1 seed, the Astros, that I think everyone expected them to get here to the World Series, but then you have the Phillies, the 6 seed, and these two teams had the biggest win differential in the regular season than any team to me in the World Series since the divisional era. And the Phillies just got here because of this new playoff bracket and this new playoff style this year.
You're right. They are here. They're the first ever 6 seed, right? The first ever 6 seed, meaning they're the first ever 6 seed to also get to the World Series. But I think it's important to note that this isn't a David versus Goliath type matchup. This is Goliath versus Goliath.
Yeah.
And the Phillies just took a little while to get going. The beginning of the year wasn't good. But look at their team. When I say this is a Goliath, you have an MVP. You have silver sluggers everywhere. You have 2 aces on the mound. You have so many different things going for you that this team didn't just luck out and get here because they got hot at the right time. This is one of the best teams on paper in the game of baseball and a team that nobody should want to face. So, yes, it's 1 versus 6. And I think it justifies the new format.
Yep.
You know, the Phillies aren't even here if it wasn't for the new format. But I think we can all agree that they deserve to be here. This team is great. They're built to win. They're built to win in October. And they have all the superstars that you could possibly imagine. Their payroll is higher than the Astros. So they're the real deal, and I'm really excited for this matchup. But it is cool to see how the bracket worked out. And that this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for this year's format.
It's so cool. Now, we got 9 topics we're going to get to today. We're just going to drive through them, but let's get started with the Phillies' number 1 guy, the reigning MVP, Bryce Harper, who has just been red hot. He turned into MVP Bryce Harper the moment the postseason started. And I know we've talked about him a lot. Can you still say he's underrated?
I think the answer to that is yes. And I know that's like a bold statement. And I do think it got closer to being adequately rated after his home run the other day in the 8th inning. That's the reason the Phillies are here right now. But for so long, Bryce Harper had continued to just fly under the radar. Look, I've mentioned it before. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 17 years old, had all the hype in the world, left high school early to go play in a junior college, and then got drafted at the top of the draft. And all of that comes along with this guy thinks he's the real deal. You know, so naturally when something like that is happening, people want to root against you almost. Or it's almost impossible to prove that you were as good as you were supposed to be.
Living up to the hype.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was so much hype that I don't think people quite understand that this guy is a superstar in the game. I think we're starting to. with that home run the other night, he etched himself into Philly lore forever. He will eternally be a legend for that home run in the 8th inning the other night, which is one of the biggest moments in Philadelphia sports history.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about 2 MVPs. The guy plays a good outfield. He has a rocket for an arm. He has great at-bats. I know this year he's just DHing because, by the way, he's playing with – he needs Tommy John. He needs surgery on his arm, and that's why he's DHing. So just an unbelievable season and continues, in my opinion, to be underrated specifically because the hype was so high. But look, he's lived up to every single bit of it, and now he's ended the Phillies' playoff drought, which if it wasn't for the Mariners' playoff drought, the Phillies had the next highest, and it's the Philadelphia Phillies. Like, you need to win in Philadelphia,
Yes,
and they're there now, and they are here because of Bryce Harper and how good he's been since he became a Philly.
And let me just share some stats on how good he's been this postseason. He's leading Major League Baseball this postseason in hits and doubles and tied for first in batting average, batting .419, and also tied in home runs with 5 home runs.
He also has a 10-game hitting streak.
Yeah.
If he gets a hit tomorrow, it'll be the longest postseason hitting streak in Philly's history. Pretty impressive.
That's incredibly impressive. So how important is Bryce Harper needing to continue to stay on this pace for the Phillies to win?
I think he's different than everybody else in that lineup, and I think he's the most important piece. Everybody else in that lineup has the potential to have good at-bats, drive the ball out of the yard. Kyle Schwarber can start the game with a home run. Rhys Hoskins can hit for power, drive balls out of the yard whenever. But Bryce Harper is that guy that, sure, he can hit home runs. We see it all the time. But he's also going to put together great bats. He's going to get deep in a count. He can hit for a high average. You just mentioned those numbers. He's a different type of hitter than everybody else in that lineup because he's one of the best hitters in the game of baseball. There's a reason he is considered that and has won 2 MVPs. So I think of everybody, and we can talk about other guys that are important to the lineup and that are going to need to have an impact. Mm-hmm. But Bryce Harper is that staple piece in the middle of that lineup. And for me, he's the guy. .419 in the playoffs. Look at that.
He's also, I feel like, the heart and soul of this team. He's the one that gets the team going in the dugout and in the clubhouse. He's the ones that get the fans going. We've talked about it before. The moment he steps to the plate, everyone's chanting MVP. Yep. So I'm saying he's living up to the hype. Everyone's remembering. Everybody is remembering this postseason how great Bryce Harper is.
I think this postseason has done a lot to get him to where he's needed to be. Not where he's needed, just in the eyes of everyone else. They're like, oh, man.
Oh, I forgot.
Really? He's that really good in the playoffs? And great. He's won 2 MVPs. Man, he really is like one of the best players in the game of baseball.
Yep.
And there's no doubt about that. Bryce Harper is unbelievably great, and he is a legend in Philly forever now.
Well, let's switch to another top player in baseball, our second topic, Jose Altuve, who is having kind of the opposite postseason, a very uncharacteristic postseason for Jose Altuve. He finally snapped his offer, but what's going on? Is he going to turn it around here in the World Series?
It's been interesting, and we've seen this from Jose a couple of times now in his career. And, look, I think he's starting to put better at-bats together. He was 0 for 23, or it got up there.
Yeah.
And finally we saw him get that hit down the line, a double, and then he gets 2 hits in the last game against the Yankees. So I think he's starting to break out of that. He's starting to put better at-bats together. A lot of the at-bats late in that streak were, hard hit balls, good swings. So he's Jose Altuve. I believe in him. I think he is out of the slump thanks to his last couple of games, but obviously his postseason numbers aren't there. But this is the World Series. Wipe the slate clean. Nobody's done great. Nobody's done poorly. It all starts over. And I would look for Jose Altuve to come out in Game 1 and swing at the first pitch and try and do damage. I would not be surprised if Jose Altuve hits the first pitch of the game out.
So don't think about that .094 batting average?
Do not.
with no home runs and no RBI?
He hit.
That's brutal.
The bigger sample size is the regular season. He hit 300 in the regular season. He's continually been one of, if not the best second baseman in the game of baseball for 5, 6, 7 years. He's unbelievable, and he has gone through these stretches of not being great, but he comes out of them, and we saw him. The reason I feel confident in it is because, guess what? You talk about the numbers, 0.94, but those have all come in his last few at-bats. His last 2 games is where all those hits have come. So he's starting to break out of it, and the slate is wiped clean. He starts fresh. He'll be leading off, and I think he's going to do some damage. I do.
All right, well, let's switch back to the Phillies. Our third topic, Rhys Hoskins.
Yep.
Now, stars are born in the playoffs, and he has emerged. He's tied with Bryce Harper for some of the top batting stats right now. What have you seen from Rhys this postseason?
I think that's a great question. What I have seen from Rhys is his ability to lock in when it matters the most. And, that sounds cliche, but I spoke to him down on the field after the game, after they won the NLCS, and it went to just that. Look, I'm hitting mistakes. I'm getting pitches right down the middle, and I'm hitting those balls hard. And that's what he is doing. So for Rhys Hoskins, this series is so important to continue to hit mistakes. Pitchers are going to make mistakes throughout the game. Where you really start struggling is when you're not hitting those mistakes. You might get one pitch in an at-bat to actually do damage with. And if you're fouling that pitch back, you're in trouble for the rest of the at-bat because all these guys out here are pretty good. So Rhys Hoskins needs to hit those mistakes as he has been doing and has been doing well. So I know his average in those sort of numbers aren't high, but you can't tell me the Phillies are here right now if it's not for Rhys Hoskins. Look at all the huge home runs he hit in the NLCS when they were down 4-0. And then when it was a tie game early in Game 5, he hits a home run. And then early in Game 4, after they had come back, he hits another one. Like, it's been such timely home runs. He is such an important key piece to their lineup, and it's been really cool to see him here. I played against Rhys for a long time in the minor leagues, so to see him here right now doing damage and in the World Series is really cool.
And you could really see that and hear that in your post-game interview with him, just how grateful and how in the moment he was to be here.
All of those guys, really. How cool was that to be down on the field with them and just like, you don't often, and you know this from your experience 10 years with the Angels, it's hard to get emotion from players, baseball players especially. I feel like the post-game interviews are all the staple, like, we fought hard.
Followed the game plan.
Yeah, followed the game plan. But after the NLCS, that was a little different, right?
It was the most emotional I have ever had interactions with baseball players. Yeah. I mean, you're going to the World Series. This is what you dream about as a kid. This is why you play the game. This is what you play 162 for, to get to this moment. And you can tell how excited and how hyped this Phillies team was, because I don't think anyone thought they were going to get here at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, not many. A lot of those guys will say they did.
Yeah.
Brandon Marsh isn't even saying he did. Brandon Marsh is just, I'm just so happy to be here.
I'm happy to be a part of this team. Like, he was a mid-season acquisition from the Angels, and there was no postseason in sight. So, he lucked out there. But let's talk some pitching, move to our fourth topic here. Which team has the pitching advantage? Let's start with the starting pitching. And how surprised are you that the Phillies aren't starting their number one guy tomorrow, Wheeler, against your brother?
I think the question of who has the advantage with starting pitching, the answer is the Astros.
Yeah.
But it is a lot closer than people think, at least at the top of the rotation, which is where it matters big time in the playoffs. You need 3 studs, and I will take Justin and Framber Valdez and Lance McCullers. But on the other side, you have Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez. And the first 2 of those, Wheeler and Nola, are unbelievable.
Yep.
And I know the last start that Aaron Nola had in the regular season came against the Houston Astros, and he went 6 2/3, didn't give up a run, gave up 2 hits. He was phenomenal the last time he faced this team. So they're all really good. But the advantage here goes to the Astros, their rotation this year. Framber Valdez has been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year and continues to be one of the probably the most underrated pitcher in baseball, specifically because of Justin.
Yeah.
And, when you look at certain teams, you point out the ace, and you talk about the ace. So if Framber Valdez is anywhere else, he's putting up ace-like numbers. He broke the all-time quality start stretch in a season record this year. He was great. So Justin and Framber back-to-back, I'll put up against anybody. But Zach Wheeler is 1A and Nola is 1B, which is why I like your question of why are you starting 1B?
Yeah.
You have game 1.
And you're rested.
You have your guy. He's on normal rest because he started the Phillies last game, but because of this break, you have Zach Wheeler ready to go in game 1. I don't know why they're starting Nola. And yes, Nola is great, and he threw great against the Astros the last start, but you can't compete with what Zach Wheeler has done in the playoffs this year. Every single start has been phenomenal. I think it's a little bit of overmanaging. I do.
Which has been a hot topic throughout the postseason, leading into the postseason. It's something we see managers do that just makes you kind of scratch your head. Why? Why not stick with the formula that got you here and got you the success to get here?
Well, right. You have Game 1 of the World Series. Why are you playing, like, matchups here?
Yeah.
Like, start your guy. You have your guy.
Yeah.
Your guy is Zach Wheeler. He's been the most dominant pitcher for a while for the Phillies, and this year has been really good. So I think it's a little bit of a chess match. Like, okay, we'll save him for Game 2. We still have Aaron Nola able to go Game 1, but we don't want Wheeler to go against Justin. And for me, that's overmanaging. Put your team, who I mentioned earlier, they're Goliath. It's a great team.
Oh, yeah.
Put up your best against the Astros' best and see where the chips fall. And your best is Zach Wheeler, and I'm a little surprised, and I think it's a little too much of overmanaging that Zach Wheeler isn't starting Game 1. So we'll see. But I do think an important part to that is this series is built in an interesting way where if you're the Phillies, you have to win one of these 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you don't have the rotational depth. So at least the rotational depth that the Astros do.
Okay.
You have to win one of these 2 games in order to really have a shot in this series, I think. The Astros are the better team on paper. They're the team that is favored. However, they are both great teams, but the advantage comes on the pitching side, as we talked about. The pitching is where the Astros have the biggest advantage. And as you get later into the rotation, the advantage gets even greater.
Okay, so
let's
dive into that. The bullpen. Okay? You said rotation, but I'm thinking later in the game, bullpen here.
Yep.
Which team has the bigger advantage, Astros or Phillies?
This is the biggest advantage in the entire series, and it's the Astros bullpen over the Phillies bullpen. The Astros bullpen has been the best bullpen in baseball all year long, the only bullpen with an ERA under 3, and really they weren't even that close to a 3. Nobody else was there. So the Astros bullpen has been great. The Phillies bullpen, not good.
No.
So
hot and cold.
That right there, which you just brought up, is the biggest difference in the entire – when you look at these 2 teams on paper, you can mix and match and say, yeah, you know what? Like these 2 teams, not when you get to the bullpen, making it even more important that Wheeler, Nola, and Suarez go deep into a game.
Yeah, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, how important – that's how they're going to win a game. Their starting guys have to go 6 or 7 if they want to get a game. They have to. There's no way around it. Yes, they can have 8 and 9 come in. They'll be okay.
Yeah.
But
they have some guys back there. The Astros have 5 guys they can turn to in the bullpen and be like, we feel great about this. The Phillies have 1 or 2.
Okay.
And that's a big difference.
That is a huge difference.
Yep.
Well, let's get to your favorite topic
of
the show. Your brother, Justin Verlander, making his start. How are you feeling right now? Because we all know how emotional you get, how nervous you get. We're a day out of him starting the World Series.
I feel okay right now. We have a pregame show tomorrow across the street here. I will not be well. I will be unwell, in fact. It is – I've always gotten nervous, and this year and this game will be no different, probably even more so. Mm-hmm. But, man, is he locked in right now. He is so locked in. He had the best year. He was the best pitcher in baseball, a 1.78 ERA, 1.79 ERA. He was unbelievable. I'm hopeful, and I always say this, I'm hopeful he wins the Cy Young Award. I am very superstitious, so I will not put that out into the universe.
Yep.
I'm hopeful he wins his 3rd. This year was phenomenal. He is so locked in right now and ready to go. He was here for hours today doing research for the Phillies lineup. He's ready to go. I'm really excited for tomorrow, and there's a lot of milestones that when he does take the mound, he'll be the 2nd pitcher in history of Major League Baseball to start a World Series game in 3 different decades, which is really cool.
That's really cool.
Joining only Roger Clemens.
Kind of a big name.
So, yeah, and with just 2 1/3 innings pitched, he'll have 200 innings in the playoffs, which is a full season of pitching in the playoffs, which only 3 pitchers have ever done that. Smoltz, Glavine, and Andy Pettitte. So, elite company that he will be joining.
Now, he has some incredible stats, but he has yet to get a win in a game pitching in the World Series. Now, I know you've been talking to him. The moment we landed in Houston, waiting for our bags, you were FaceTiming him at the airport. You were with him and the family today. What is his mindset? Where is he at heading into Game 1 tomorrow?
It feels like and looks like it's business as usual.
Okay.
Justin has always been the same way, very even keel. Don't get too high, don't get too low, and that's certainly what he's done today. Being around him, he's ready to go. He came in, he got his work done, he watched film, he did what he needed to do. He'll be locked in. So, yeah, you know, these numbers in the World Series jump out, and certainly that's not what he's done over the course of his career, but there's been multiple starts in the World Series where he's thrown really well and starts where he hasn't. And I do think he knows that. I think he understands that, and I think, you know, it's not a thought in his mind like, oh, I need to get a World Series win to add to my resume. No, he just wants to come out and pitch well tomorrow, and if he does that, there's a good chance he gets that first World Series win. But, yeah, you're right. You know, I think this is a time where you put all those numbers aside, you go out and do your business, and you say, I'm getting my first World Series ring today. Win.
I love it.
Yeah.
Win. Well, we got a special guest here. We got Papa Verlander in the house. Can we have him come in?
The Flippin' Bats
Yeah.
fan favorite. My dad, good news, made it out of the cornfields of Iowa and has made it here to Minute Maid Park. Dad, welcome on in.
Thanks, Ben. I was just wondering why you hadn't had me back before now, but you know what you were doing in 2006?
In 2006.
What was he doing?
In 2006, I was at the World Series.
Yes, and you were in middle school. So I'd like to just talk for a minute about how far I've come as a fan.
Go ahead. Flippin' Bats with Richard Verlander. Take it away.
In 2006, first World Series with the family, I made a major step forward.
I know. I remember that.
I actually stayed in my seat for the whole game.
Whoa.
So when you talk about nerves, yeah, I mean, I used to leave the building, leave the stadium.
You couldn't watch?
I couldn't watch.
No.
I mean, I actually left.
I remember games at Old Dominion where
Yes.
he would literally, we had the stadium. My dad would walk back to the dorms where
Right.
he'd just go. He'd
Was
just
it
leave.
It was-
he felt if you were watching,
No,
he wasn't going to give a good
it was
performance?
It was just
you
it was
couldn't do it.
just pure nerves.
Oof, okay.
So I mean, I peeked through the
Got it.
fence. Even at home, watching on TV, I would leave the
Yeah.
room and then actually leave the house and go outside and go for a walk. So I have come a long way. And Justin Ben's mom is here. In 2006, we sat down at the World Series in St. Louis. Justin was starting Game 1 as a rookie, and I started to get up, and she said, "Your son is pitching in the World Series. Sit your, you know what,
Yep.
down."
Way to go, Mom.
So I did that, and I'd just like to say that, move the clock forward now. Here we are, 2022. To all you parents out there that wonder with a little leaguer, does it get any easier? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're fortunate enough to be able to get some pretty good seats, but no one will sit in my row with me.
Oh, I can imagine.
Nobody
that.
will sit beside me because I don't know. I give off some kind of aura.
It's a vibe.
It's
Yeah.
a vibe.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I get
it's
it.
like everybody's scared of me.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, you were in middle school. You were in middle school.
Was he sitting next to you? Did he sit down the whole time as well? Or
I
also nervous
remember that
wreck?
well because it was the first time I've ever sat next to my dad when Justin was pitching because he always leaves. And I remember vividly because he got up to get ready to walk away and
Yeah.
Mom goes, "Sit down. Your son is
Right.
pitching in the
Right.
World Series." And he went, okay.
But no, what a journey it's been.
Yeah.
To see this guy now doing what he's doing, and Justin's still at it. Is just an incredible journey to be able to see your kids living their dream, no matter what it is they're doing. You couldn't be prouder of both of them.
That's what I was going to say. It's pretty crazy to have both of your sons here at the World Series working in different capacities. I don't know if there's a better feeling as a parent.
It's kind of like the perfect storm for us,
Yeah.
just in sense of having the whole family together. Because with grandkids and Ben in one part of the country, Justin in another all the time,
Yeah.
it's very unusual that we all come together. It's kind of like the stars have to align for us.
Yep.
And what a place for it to happen. We just couldn't be happier.
I got chills for you guys. This is so cool. What a cool
is.
moment for the Verlander family. This is magical.
It is going to be special for sure. Have your nerves kicked in for tomorrow yet? When do they kick in? When do the nerves get going?
They're kind of fluttering a little bit.
They're fluttering now.
Yeah, yeah. And you make me nervous.
Oh, just standing
Just
here?
being next to him
Just
makes me nervous.
standing here.
Yeah. But,
I like how I bring Dad back on the show, and there was no question asked. He just grabbed the mic and went and just kept going and just took over the show. And that's what I love about you. Just that.
Well, I've always been one to try to take all the credit. So I really feel like that, your success is in a large part a reflection of myself, but I don't want to get too
We were walking down here on the field, and somebody asked if I could hit a ball out, and how you would do, and your response to them was, "Well, where do you think he got it?"
Oh, yes.
Acorn
right.
doesn't fall far from the tree. And if you've ever seen my dad take swings in the cage, I mean,
I'm going to tell you why Ben is such a good hitter.
Yep.
Because I is such a horrible pitcher.
Okay.
You have to agree with this.
Yeah.
When the boys were growing up and I would pitch, I would never throw it anywhere near the strike zone.
It's good strategy.
So they actually got pretty good. I mean, it could probably hit a ball behind him with his hands behind his back, just because I was such a horrible pitcher. But see, like I said, I had a lot to do with this.
Oh, I know. And when we were back by the TV trucks, he goes, "You want me to show you how to swing a bat?"
Yep.
It was beautiful. Now I understand where this is all coming from.
Yeah, it makes me batty.
No, it's beautiful. And you're welcome back anytime.
I call
And
that.
to the cornfield
He
again.
went for a dad joke there, just so that
I
makes me
missed it.
batty.
But we have
I missed it.
But we have to go
Nice.
back to the cornfield, because that was one of those experiences right up here, near and dear to the heart, the whole father-son thing.
That was beautiful.
Such a wonderful experience that was, and thanks to you guys for inviting me on.
Ah,
Of course. Thank you, as always.
Dad.
Thanks.
Wouldn't be here without you.
Bye.
Yeah. Oh,
Bye.
see ya. Later, skater.
He makes flipping bats. I think when he comes.
What a legendary father you have.
I got back to Los Angeles after being in the cornfields of Iowa, and not one time was it, "Ben, great work." It was, "I love your dad. He did really well." It's like, I'll tell him. Thanks.
Did you tell him?
I did.
Because
tell
he
him.
didn't invite him back on
I did
since
tell him.
then, and
Well,
he let us know that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
true.
We got something to work on. All right. Well, let's move to another legendary person, Astros manager Dusty Baker. Now, he's the most winningest manager without a World Series ring. He's gotten close, but nothing to show for it. How much pressure do you think he's feeling heading into this World Series?
I do think there is some pressure.
There has to
I mean,
be.
it's gotten to the point where, like you just said, he's won more games than any other manager in history to not win a World Series. It's the last thing.
It is.
Dusty's a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
He is. And he's also, there's an art, like, when it comes to managers that also played the game, he's in the top to have ever done it. And that he was a good player, and he's been an all-time great manager, and he is going to go into the Hall of Fame. Now, he does have a World Series ring from his playing days a long time ago, but he needs one on the managing side of things.
Yeah.
And I think, of people that are just looking onto this series that really have no skin in the fight, there are people that are saying, I would like Dusty to win. He deserves it.
How does he do that? Because, again, the manager can only do so much, right?
Yeah.
It's up to the players at this point.
It is, but managers take on more of a role in the postseason.
Explain.
Well, that's when pitching changes and lineups all become so, like, you're really looking into it. In the regular season, it's sort of guys have their roles, right? You have a setup guy pitch the 8th. You have a closer pitch the 9th. You have your starter, and then if you need to bridge that gap, great. In the postseason, we see starters go 3-4 innings sometimes. Then it's, what are you going to do? Who are you going to turn to? And it's that manager's call. And how many times in the past, I mean, I think the most well-known, at least in recent past decision, is Kevin Cash with Blake Snell a few years ago in the World Series, pulling Blake Snell. And that conversation goes to, why did Kevin Cash pull him?
Yeah.
And we could be having a different conversation right now. The Rays could have gone on to win that game, and then who knows what happens the rest of that series, and that's on the manager. So, yeah, there's a little bit of, like, that's just one of those stats that it just sticks out to you, but there's really no rhyme or reason to it. But there's also a part of it that I bet you could ask Dusty, and he'd say, there's some decisions I made in the past in the World Series that I do wish I had done differently, and maybe he'd have a ring on the managing side.
Now, you obviously have a close connection to the Astros. What kind of impact has he had on this clubhouse?
I think the guys love him, and
Yeah.
I think he's hysterical. And there are so many stories that Dusty Baker tells. By the way, I don't know if you knew this.
What?
Dusty Baker invented the high five. No, look it up.
That's a stretch.
Look it up.
He invented the high five?
Invented the high five.
I don't know. I'm going to call like a 7 CPI on this.
You don't. Go ahead.
Okay.
Explain CPI.
So CPI in my family is called the Curry Probability Index. If you say something confidently enough, it's a high CPI. Whether it's true or not, but you said it confidently enough, I'm like, okay, I could see it. But like high fives could have been before people even were able to record what high fives were. There's no, no.
Well, it's a fact. Dusty
I'll give
Baker
you a
and Glenn
5 on
Burke
that
in
one.
the 1960s or 1970s. What was it again?
Maybe the first one, like caught on TV?
I'm getting it. Dusty Baker
Okay.
and Glenn Burke of the Dodgers, October 2nd, 1977. Dusty Baker invents the high five. Boom. How you like that?
Yeah, I'm still calling it a
And now
a
he's
5
still
CPI.
here in the locker room. The guys love him. He tells so many great stories. One I heard recently was just like he was giving the team a pump-up speech, and he goes, the regular season, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit. You got to turn the page, and this is where legends are born. This is where you make a name for yourself. And he goes, I remember when I was playing, one guy we always did well against him was Mark Lemke, but then in the playoffs we just couldn't get him out. Mark Lemke. Be like Mark Lemke. He just tells so. It's just incredible the stories this guy has, and I mean, think about it. He has been around. I remember Justin asked him a question earlier this year about baseball, and he goes, if I could explain to you what I've seen, just know I was there when Hank Aaron broke the all-time home run record, and I was there when Barry Bonds broke the record as well. So I've seen a lot.
He's seen a lot.
He's a legend of the game, for sure.
He is a legend. Well, let's dive deeper into Dusty Baker and bring Fox Sports writer Disha Thosar to talk about her article on foxsports.com. Disha, welcome into the show.
What's up, Disha? Pumped to have you in person now. I've had you on the show before, but now we're here in person talking some Dusty Baker, which you are currently writing about Dusty Baker?
Yes,
is that right?
I'm currently writing about Dusty Baker. Just submitted it, so I can say I'm finally
Oh,
done.
it's done.
Okay.
I know everything there is to know about Dusty Baker.
Did you know he invented the high five?
I did actually know that.
See?
Yes, I did know that.
Okay.
So what is the article about that you just wrote?
Mostly just that he is the MLB's winningest manager that still doesn't have a World Series, and it's kind of shocking when you put it up against Buck Showalter, who's second, who has 300-something wins. Dusty has 800-something wins, so he is way overdue for this ring. And it's whenever you ask him about it, he's very calm, very cool, collected. And it's funny is today he was asked again, and he said, I don't just want the one ring, I want a second one. So he's not going anywhere. Even if he gets the first, he's coming back for more. So Dusty Baker in the ring is, I think, the narrative that fans can follow, like you mentioned. If they don't exactly want to root for the Astros, they're not exactly the most beloved team in the World Series, and he's kind of a good story to follow in that way.
Absolutely. Do you know how many World Series, I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't know it off the top of your head, but how many World Series as a manager has he been a part of?
3.
So this is his third? Or
this is his third, yeah.
This is his third. Okay.
1 NL pennant, 2 AL pennants.
And there's some stat about him getting to Game 7s and losing Game 7s. I mean, I do think it's a mixture of a little bit of just misfortune and bad luck, but probably a few decisions made along the way. But it is really one of the anomalies in baseball that don't really make any sense. He's a legend, and that stat is crazy that he has almost 500 more wins than the next closest manager. Is that active?
Yes,
active. The active managers to not have a World Series ring, and he doesn't have it yet. And that's on top of, in 2019, they were the heavily favored team to win it. And that was the most odd. Like, if you look at this stretch, it's one of the most odd stretches ever, because that World Series was the first championship in American sports history where the home team never won a game.
Yeah, that was crazy.
They get to.
True, I forgot about that.
They win Game 5 in D.C., and then you have Justin and Garrett Cole pitching Game 6 and 7 here, needing to win one. And it's like Dusty Baker's going to get his ring. And it didn't happen.
So how much do the players want to get the ring for Dusty? Did you talk to any of the guys about that?
That was on the forefront of my mind
Okay.
all today because I think it kind of gets lost in everything else. Of course, this is an amazing Astros team.
Yeah.
And on field, on talent. I liked what you were talking about with how much do managers even have to do with it. And I
Yeah.
think a lot because that's this team specifically, the 2022 squad, talks about Dusty's confidence in them, his attitude, especially with someone like Jeremy Pena. Right from the day one of spring training, he was like, you can do this. And guys remember that. So Alex Bregman today said that they definitely want to win this for Dusty. They couldn't get it done last year. And 5 minutes after they were eliminated last year, everyone was sort of down in the dumps. No one was really up for, of course, the Braves were celebrating. And exactly 5 minutes later, Dusty was like, we'll be back. And immediately that fire was back in the clubhouse. So I think that just sort of tells how much a manager can dictate what a team does throughout the season, especially.
You mentioned Jeremy Pena. He recently called Dusty Baker a cool cat. He's in his 70s.
Yes.
What is it that, I mean,
His swag. He's got swag.
He's got swag,
Yeah.
and that's what all of them will say about him. I mean, what is it about Dusty outside of managerial decisions and what he does in the dugout that makes him so beloved in a locker room?
Yeah, I think he's very approachable, and he's kind of always joking no matter what the topic may be. It's the toothpick in his mouth, of course. It's the wristbands on his arms, the black gloves, the style that he has even beyond the field. I think guys just kind of think that he's one of them, and he really sports that attitude of just being approachable and one of the guys. And it's truly hard to believe that he is 73 years old sometimes. And if we're not for this, sometimes the way he carries himself today during his press conference, he needed a moment to check his glasses in the light. I thought that was like such a cute elderly moment that he doesn't usually share with us. So were it not for those moments, I think you could forget that he has been in this game as long as he has as both a player and a manager.
And speaking of being in the game so long, he actually has the inside book on the Phillies' #1 guy, Bryce Harper, from their time together. Did he talk about the advantages he has there?
He wouldn't talk about the advantages.
Okay,
It's funny because no matter how much you try to press Dusty, he knows exactly when to stop. And he won't take it to the field competition-wise. But they do still have a really close relationship, and it started with Dusty managing Bryce Harper in 2016 and 17 with the Nationals. And earlier this month when the Phillies were in town to play the Astros, Dusty heard a knock on his door. He was like, come in, and it was Bryce. And he's like, oh, it wasn't. I thought it'd be one of my guys. And really, he just wanted to say, listen, I don't know how far we'll go with the Phillies, but I'm rooting for you if you're the one in the World Series. And Dusty was like, yeah, vice versa. I'll root for you if you're. And I think that really shows his impact with players that he hasn't managed for years now, and it really leaves a lasting impact with everyone he's kind of around.
That right there, like I just got chills as you were like, that was this year.
Yeah,
That's
in
so
earlier
cool.
October.
It's like if it's not going to be me, I hope it's you.
That's so cool.
That's
That's
awesome.
a really. I got like chills hearing
Yeah,
that.
the
That's
same.
really cool. So, Disha, thank you for joining us. Were you in the locker room when the Astros won in New York?
No, I
I
wasn't
saw a
in the.
video. I thought you went in there.
I went in at the end, but after the Yankees sort of clubhouse was a little too depressing, so I wanted to cover the end, and I got some of the champagne right at the end there. But it was a fun time for sure.
And where can everyone check out your article?
On FoxSports.com.
Love it. And the Fox Sports app. So make sure you go read that. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank
That
you.
was
Thank you
some
so
great
much, guys.
insight.
Yeah, that was
course.
great. Thank you for sharing that, Disha. That was, like I said, look, I'm not oblivious to the fact that the Astros aren't the most well-liked team in the game of baseball. But one of the most well-liked managers in the history of the game does lead the way for them, and I think that is a talking point that, look, if the Astros do win this series, people will be happy for Dusty.
For Dusty Baker.
Yeah.
I think the league will be happy for Dusty Baker. I don't think you could have don't get mad at me for saying this, a team that is more hated and then a manager that is more loved than the Astros and Dusty Baker together here. It's probably the best thing that could happen for them at this point.
I would agree with that.
Getting some fans to kind of root for them again.
I agree with that.
That aren't Astro fans.
I mean, they have been here now for so many years in a row, which leads well into...
Let's get into our next topic, which is, are the Astros cementing a dynasty at this point? Do they have to win to be considered a dynasty? They've been so good for so long with one World Series.
I think that is a great question. And they got to 6 consecutive ALCSs, right?
Yeah.
6 in a row. That had never happened in the American League side. It had only happened on the National League side with the Atlanta Braves. Now you look at 3 World Series in 4 years and 4 World Series in 6 years. And everybody's going to look at rings, right? That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
Winning the American League is a championship. It's the American League championship. Now, it is. It is.
It's not the championship.
It's not the championship, which is why I am saying that the Astros currently don't have a dynasty.
Yes.
I will say that if they win this one,
Okay.
if they win 2 in a 6-year span and go to 6 straight ALCSs and have done it over and over and over and have had talent come in and leave and superstars, Garrett Cole, Carlos Correa, come in and leave. If they win this one, the Houston Astros will forever be considered a dynasty.
Okay. If they don't win the World Series, would you still consider them a dynasty?
I would say no.
Okay, good.
But a question I would like to present you
Okay.
is when I look back on when I hear the word dynasty in baseball, I think Atlanta Braves of the 90s when they won 14 consecutive divisions and had all of these crazy records and won and won and won. They won 1 World Series in that time. The Atlanta Braves won 1 championship. World Series championship, I might add.
There you go.
And I would say the Braves had a dynasty at that time. So me personally, I think the ultimate championship matters. You can get there and you will be remembered as a great team. But to me, the word dynasty means something. And it means, like, we throw that word around a lot in sports. Dynasty means something, and to me it means championships. And in baseball, if you're going to start talking baseball dynasty, that doesn't happen very often. The New York Yankees of the late 90s, dynasty.
Yes.
The Atlanta Braves of when they won 14 consecutive divisions and a championship in there. To me, that is that's the line, I think. That's close. The Astros, to be considered a dynasty, need to win this one, and if they do, they will forever be a dynasty.
I think they have to win 2 more
I disagree.
to be considered a dynasty.
Well, you just don't like the Astros.
To be a dynasty, 2 championships?
Correct.
3 championships feels like a dynasty for me with the same group of guys in a shorter span of time.
The CPI on this feels a little out of control. This is, look, it's baseball. Winning back-to-back championships just doesn't really happen.
That's why it's hard to be a dynasty.
Well, I think it's different in different sports. Like in the NFL, the Patriots with Tom Brady in those years.
That was a dynasty.
In baseball, it's
a lot of
different.
rings.
You're not winning back-to-back-to-back championships
6 rings.
in baseball. I'm aware it's a different sport. In baseball, if you're winning 2 in 6 years and going to the World Series 4 out of those 6 years, you're a dynasty. Whether you're going to be a hater or not, it's a dynasty.
It's not being a hater. It's not having the hardware to back up the word dynasty. It takes a lot to be considered a dynasty. And the final piece, yes, you can be a great team. Yes, you can get there, but you have to win and have the hardware from the World Series.
You go to my
2
brother's
more.
house, I'll show you some hardware.
2 more. I'm
Plenty of rings, championship rings, a World Series ring, and this will be number 2.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We're going to move on.
All right, let's
move on. Let's move to our 8th topic. Home field advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is big. We were talking about it the other day, especially in baseball in a series. The visiting crowd doesn't travel as hard as a home team crowd. It's about 90-ish% home fans at the stadium, which any other sport you don't see that very often. So who do you think has the home field advantage in this World Series?
I think you made up a good point the other day when you said you asked me about the percentage in the World Series of fans, and I told you, and then you said, well, it does make sense. Like, they're going to come to your home. So if you go, you'd rather go to your home team stadium, which is a great point. This is a tricky one because we're about to witness 2 incredible atmospheres. We just witnessed the Philly atmosphere in the NLCS, and it's got to be better, right? It's going to be better. That was the CS.
Yeah.
This is the World Series. I've experienced the World Series here. Now, I'm going to say the better home field advantage goes to the Phillies, and the reason isn't because of anything that the Astros fans aren't doing. It's what the Phillies fans haven't gotten to do in so long. They are starving for this World Series. You could feel it when we were there. It just feels different. And it just is human nature. You become a little spoiled to the fact that, like, oh, man, we're back for the 4th time in 6 years.
They're used to it now.
I'm going to go back to the World Series. That'd be cool again.
It now.
And Philly, standing room only tickets are going for $1,300. People are like going insane to get these, and people have been waiting for this for a long, long time, and they're back. So I think the home field advantage in Philly is going to be nuts.
We agree on this.
Look at us.
100% rare. But Philly fans are just a different breed of fans as we experience pre-game, during the game, after the game. Fans 6 to 60 are in on every pitch, every at-bat. They are yelling at the players. They know the stats. No phones are out. They are just there enjoying the moment, staying after the game as long as they can. It is aggressive passion, and I think the Phillies have huge home field advantage.
I think Dancing on My Own is also a great
legendary.
Leaving Philly, we're singing that song for a couple of days, and it sticks with you. They got a good vibe going on. There's something special going on in Philly. The fans feel it. Like you mentioned, the game ends, fans don't go anywhere.
Nope.
Even, of course, the clinching game, they didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But even the other games, they stick around. They cheer on their
can.
team. They sing Dancing on My Own with the team. It's special, and I am so excited for both of these locations because Houston in the playoffs is one of the loudest places I have ever experienced. It will be again, and so will Philly.
I mean, it probably helps that the roof is closed. That gives them a little extra volume level.
I know. Aaron Boone's at home.
Just a little.
Aaron Boone's at home punching his couch right now that the roof is closed. He just can't believe it.
Just can't take it. Still angry about it.
Still angry.
Still angry. All right, well, let's move to our last and final topic. We're a game away from the World Series starting. We got to give our predictions. I want to know who you think is winning, how many games, and who is your MVP.
Just know that I want to know yours as well.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
It's coming.
All right. My prediction for the World Series is that the series does get back here.
Okay.
I think we're coming back here.
All right.
And I think the Astros win in 6.
Okay.
I do believe the big advantage comes in those games in Philly where they don't have their great starting pitchers ready to go. They're using them here. So as I mentioned, the Phillies need to win one here.
Yeah.
But then the series really shifts when you get to Philly, and they do have a big home field advantage, but they won't have their pitchers, their best guys going. So I think the Astros can get it done. I think they do it in 6, but I can't stress enough. I said it earlier. This series is Goliath versus Goliath. These are two absolute studs going at it. These are two franchises and two organizations that have MVPs. They have silver sluggers. They have studs in a rotation. Like, this is going to be a lot of fun. So I think Astros get it done. First question you ask.
Yep.
I think it's in 6 games.
Okay.
Second question you ask. MVP.
Yeah.
I'm going Alex Bregman.
I am so surprised you did not say your brother.
There was, yeah.
He's got some high odds.
He's got very high.
Good odds.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm going Alex Bregman.
All right.
I
Why?
think, well, one, he's heating up at the plate, and I don't know how to explain this, and it might not even come out and make sense. So wish me luck here.
Good luck.
I can't get out of my head since 2019. I was sitting right there behind home plate when Alex Bregman came up, and the series was tough because the Astros had lost the first 2 games here, and then it goes to D.C., and Bregman comes up in a pivotal time in the series with the bases loaded, and he hit a grand slam, and it just, like, what he has continually done for this team in the playoffs against the best of the best. He's done it against some great pitchers throughout the years. I remember it coming when Chris Sale was on top of his game in Boston, he took Chris Sale deep over the monster, and he's continually done it against aces. I think Bregman gets a homer here in one of the first 2 games off of Wheeler or Nola. And I think, look, he's been hitting well in the first 2 series. He hit .333 in both series, a double in each of them. He's driving the ball, has really good at-bats. I think Alex Bregman to win MVP on the biggest stage is the way to go.
I mean, his 15 World Series RBI are the most by any active player. So you know he can get it done.
I'll
give you that.
Yeah. All right. I am excited for this because I have no idea what your prediction is. So,
You don't?
Alex, no, nobody
Oh.
would tell me. I tried to get
Good.
it so I could have a rebuttal ready,
Okay.
but I don't know.
I am taking the Phillies in 7 games. They have that playoff magic. They are going to come back here, and they're going to get it done. Bottom line. That's what it is. And my MVP? Bryce Harper. The MVP in all of our hearts right now.
Well, not
in the
really.
world's heart. What do you mean? You said he's the most underrated player. You know you like
But
him.
he's not the MVP in my heart.
Okay, that's true. I'll give that to your
You
brother.
know, like my
Okay.
heart is a sacred place.
I
Don't
got it.
put an
Okay.
MVP in there for me.
Fine. Deal. But yeah, I'm taking Phillies in 7.
Okay.
Bryce Harper MVP.
I have a follow-up.
Okay.
Why? What's your thought process on how this series plays out?
Once the postseason started, we saw the Phillies turn into a completely different team.
Mm-hmm.
They have that special postseason magic that one team always seems to pick up at one point. I thought it was going to be a couple different teams throughout this entire playoffs, but it was the Phillies through and through. I think they're clicking on all cylinders, and if the pitching can show up, if they can go deep into games, their bats have been red hot, led by Bryce Harper and Hoskins. I think they have what it takes. I think they have the grit. I think they have I just think they have it this year, and they're going to get it done.
I will say, if the Phillies do win this series,
Yes.
I think it's in 7 games.
Yes.
The reason being, you look at this series and the way it shapes out. You got their 2 studs going in the first 2 games, right?
Yep.
And I mentioned how important it's going to be for them to win one of those first 2 games. If they win one of those, then you go back home tied,
Yeah.
right? That's where I mentioned, and we both agreed, that the home field advantage there is going to
Huge.
be insane. So maybe
Yeah.
they don't have their best guys going on the mound, but there's a realistic world in which that home field advantage gets them 2 out of 3 games there, right? So then there's a world in which they come back here for 6 and 7, and you know the Astros will have one of their guys going in Game 6, either Justin or Framber.
Yeah.
Then Game 7's always a toss-up. So
It is.
I don't think that your prediction is terrible by any means.
I don't think your prediction is terrible by any means.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Look at us. So that's our World Series prediction. Astros in 6 for me. Phillies in 7 for you. I have Bregman as my MVP. You have Bryce Harper as your MVP and in your heart.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on there in
Yep.
your heart.
Don't
But-
tell Mike Trout that.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. We're just doing a show from down here on the field.
We're the
here.
only ones down here. We're the last
Oh,
we're the last
we have
people here.
been the only ones down here. There hasn't been anybody out here for hours. But we are here to bring it all to you because our goal, as we mention all the time, is to make you all feel like you are here with us. So when we're here down on the field live, you'll be here with us, hearing the music being tested in the background, whatever it might be. We are bringing everything we experience straight to you. This has been our World Series preview episode, and it all starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I am so pumped. We will be live pregame. There will be a full Flippin' Bats pregame show. There will be a postgame show immediately following the game. We'll be right here, back down on the field throughout every single game here and in Philadelphia. It's going to be a blast. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Flippin' Bats Pod, Apple, Spotify, wherever it may be. And follow along on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and you can watch every episode on YouTube as well. But for another episode of Flippin' Bats presented by Perry Ellis Fragrances, thank you all for listening. We will see you tomorrow. It is World Series time.
Yeah.
Let's go. Peace.
See ya.